it's a pleasure that you all join this very wonderful evening with our friends from the US and of course with Pak Josh Iwan Marantika and my colleague here, Pak Hermawan, and we still have lots of people we expect to come this evening. It's a pleasure for us to have such a great teams today, a future of works and educations, challenge and solutions in Yogyakarta. Before this meeting, we already have national meetings also held in Yogyakarta.
Recording in progress.
This conference is initiated by Kadin, Indonesia, as the chairpersons of B20 Business 20. So you know that the G20 2022 belongs to Indonesia, and Kadin, as a Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we become the chairpersons of Business Network meeting. We call it B20. And one of the great initiatives that will be reported at the assembly, at the summit meeting in November in Bali, the G20 meetings, we have what we call as the dialogues between B20, Business 20, which are 20 biggest countries in the world, 20 biggest economic power in the world that we gather in Bali as the summit. Before that, in Yogyakarta, Pak Josh Iwan Marantika, as one of the national committee of the B20, initiated dialogues on B20, G20 dialogues on future of works and educations. It was held on 15th of August 2022. So further initiative has been granted to us, and that is why we are so thank you, and we are so delighted that Mr. Andreas also joined us this evenings with the same topic as the previous ones at the national level of initiative dialogues between G20 and B20, which means dialogues among stakeholders and also dialogues between the governments and the business networks. So this evening we are going to have the same topics, B20 and G20 dialogues on future of works and education, challenge and solutions. So we are invited schools, we are invited all the Education Council of Yogyakarta. I myself, Timothy Aprianto from the Education Council of Yogyakarta. Also, I am at the board of Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Yogyakarta. And later on, we are going to have government representatives, regional government representatives. We are expecting to have Pak Agus Priyono, and here also we have Pak Tasbir, is very senior advisor in tourism, but also at business networks in Yogyakarta. And also we have Pak Syahbenol here. Pak Syahbenol is the chairperson of Chamber of Commerce and Industry Advisory Board. Then before we start the meetings, I myself actually as one of the speakers, beside in the Kadin, I'm also at the Board of Education in Yogyakarta. We invited also schools in Yogyakarta which has international programs. So later on we will hear the challenge and the solutions from Andreas, and then from Pak Hermawan as a member of Engineers Councils, Engineers Associations Council in Yogyakarta, or in Indonesia is called PII, Persatuan Insinyur Indonesia. Welcome Pak Isdarmoko. Pak Isdarmoko. Pak Isdarmoko is head of education department in Bantul Regency. Welcome, Pak. We also invite head of education department from Yogyakarta province and then from all the regencies in Yogyakarta. But Josh, without wasting the further times for us, it's better for us to start the dialogues, and then this evening programs will be held from 4:15, Pak Josh, until about 5:30. Pak Josh, is it okay if I let them to introduce them there very quickly? Yes. Would you please introduce yourself, from which school or from which institution are you from? Then we can have a better atmosphere for us to know better amongst us. Please, from the gentleman sitting next to Pak Josh, Mr. Isdar Moko.
Yeah. Nama Isdar Moko dari Dinas Dikpora Kabupaten Bantul ya. Ini terima kasih ada kesempatan diundang di forum ini ya, kita untuk menambah wawasan. Saya kira itu saja dulu ya. Terima kasih.
Hello, Mister. Hello, Mister. My name is Eka. I am from SMA Agama. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Neneng Nur Kamalasari. I'm from Global Islamic School, Junior High. Thank you. Ya, Sleman, Pak. Ya.
Thank you. Wahyu Widodo dari Kadin Sleman. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, my name Mario Heli from Budiawacana High School.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rengganis. We are from Yogyakarta Montessori High School. So in Yogyakarta Montessori School, we have starting from the nursery, until high school right now. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, my name is Billy Rumbewas. I'm the Vice Principal of Curriculum from Yogyakarta Montessori School. Thank you.
Selamat siang semuanya, perkenalkan saya Dimas, saya dari SMA Katolik Sang Timur, Yogyakarta. Terima kasih.
Selamat sore, saya Agustina Iria dari SMA Katolik Sang Timur, Yogyakarta. Terima kasih.
Hello everyone, my name is Rahma from Mutiara Persada High School. Thank you.
Hello, my name Wahyudi. I'm from Mutiara Persada High School. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lina. I'm from SMA Stella Duce 1, Yogyakarta. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Bapak Ibu. I am Sinta. I am from SMA Stella Duce 1 High School. Thank you.
Perkenalkan, nama saya Purwanto dari SMA Bias Yogyakarta.
Baik, terima kasih. Perkenalkan, saya Anto dari SMA Bias Yogyakarta.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emi. I'm from Tumbo High School, Sewon, Bantul. Thank you.
Selamat sore semuanya. Perkenalkan saya Azad dari Sekolah Kesatuan Bangsa.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you very much for this evening. My name is Anto. I come from Kesatuan Bangsa School Yogyakarta. Thank you.
Itu Pak. Oke, selamat sore. My name is Fikri from Junior Chamber Internasional Indonesia. Mungkin sedikit perkenalan, GCI itu organisasi kepemudaan. Jadi kita sebenarnya cukup sering mengirim pertukaran pelajar juga ke luar negeri, seperti ke Jepang, Thailand, Taiwan, untuk belajar di networknya kita di internasional. Karena kita ada network di 126 negara. Terima kasih.
Sugeng Senten, selamat sore. Good evening. My name is Syahbenul Hasibuan. I am chairman advisor of Kadin DIY, and so chairman of Cooperative Council for Special Province Yogyakarta. Thank you.
Selamat sore, perkenalkan nama saya Sidik dari HIPMI Jogja. Terima kasih.
Tasbir, advisor of Chamber of Commerce Yogyakarta. Thank you.
Halo, selamat sore semuanya. Perkenalkan saya Randy dari Humas Kadin DIY. Terima kasih.
Brother and sister, ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, behind me, there's a gentleman, a very handsome guy actually. He's not so tall, but he's just written from Australia, Pak Jos. He's the headmaster or the principal of Bob Kris 1. Yeah, stand up, Pak. Yeah, Pak Mr. Sartono. Would you please introduce yourself?
Thank you. My name is Sartana. I'm a principal from Bosa Senior High School. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, this evening programs will be moderated by our senior friends, Mr. Josh Iwan Marantika, which is very popular, and he's one of the board in Kadin Indonesia, and also the member of the B20 committee. So he's a really important person for us to take and bring the issues from everywhere in Indonesia to be brought into the summit. G20, B20 dialogue meetings will be held in Bali in November. But Jos, time is yours, Pak Jos.
Thank you, Pak Tim, for introducing everyone in this room. Of I think about 30 people, ya. Ada di ruangan ini sekitar 30 orang. Of, school leaders, leaders of schools, business leaders, chamber leaders, and also from the government, yeah, the government of Yogyakarta. Pak Shabenol was also the former head of the cooperatives department, yeah, in council, yeah, in Yogyakarta, and also Pa Tasbir was also the head of tourism department here in Yogyakarta. So both senior in the region, and we will have a discussion that will be in 2 languages, in English and in Indonesian. We have with us also coming online people from all over the world coming online also. So first, what I would like to do is share with you why we're having this discussion. Jadi pertama saya ingin membagi kepada rekan-rekan kenapa kita melakukan diskusi ini. So this discussion is a follow-up of the B20 dialogue that happened in the 15th of August in Yogyakarta for recommending to the G20 on the future of work and education. Jadi diskusi ini adalah dialog, tindak lanjut dari dialog tanggal 15 Agustus yang diselenggarakan di Yogyakarta, B20, yang merupakan rekomendasi kepada G20 nanti di bulan Bali tentang masa depan kerja dan pendidikan. And so therefore, the B20 is chaired by the Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the chairman, Mr. Arsad Rashid, has asked that Yogyakarta provide recommendations as a reaction or response to the dialogue that happened on the 15th of August. Jadi Ketua Kadin telah meminta kita dari DIY, kan DIY adalah pusat pendidikan di Indonesia, memberikan rekomendasi atau observasi tentang apa yang telah diselenggarakan tanggal 15 Agustus yang lalu terkait dengan rekomendasi B20 kepada G20. And so for that, the Chamber of Commerce of Yogyakarta, under the leadership here of the Crown Princess Mangkubumi, who is also, I think, the founder of Tumbuh School, yeah? Tumbuh's there, right? And also under the leadership here of Bapak Shabenol, the chairman of the supervisory body of the chamber, and also the various chamber board members here, have assembled this meeting to give input, global input, but also to hear your response as school leaders. Ya. Jadi oleh karena itu Kadin telah menginisiasi pertemuan hari ini untuk mendengar masukan dari global, makanya ada nanti tamu-tamu dari online maupun hadir sekarang offline dari luar, dan juga dari rekan-rekan semua yang ada di ruangan ini. Nah, bagaimana tanggapannya? Sehingga nanti bisa menjadi rekomendasi kita kepada Ketua Kadin. So this will then become our recommendation and suggestions also to the chairman of the chamber, who will take it to the discussions within the B20 to the G20. So that is the background of this conversation. And why is this important? Kenapa ini penting? Karena semua stakeholder menyadari bahwa pendidikan ini adalah jangkar dari pembangunan. Jadi all of the stakeholders, be it the business community, government, and people in the education sector, know and realize that education is the anchor of development. Jadi bagaimana masa depan bangsa kita, the future of our nation, relies on our ability to be able to adapt to the future of work and education. Bangsa kita untuk menjadi bangsa unggul akan bergantung bagaimana kita menanggapi dan menyikapi masa depan dari dunia kerja itu sendiri maupun pendidikan itu sendiri. Karena saya kira semua di sini sadar terjadi disrupsi. Because we all here understand that there is a disruption. So therefore, that is the background of this discussion. And to trigger the discussion, we have with us various speakers from our international speakers. We have with us offline Mr. Andreas Bayer from Education's Academy Online. Education's Academy Online and Education's Group is a leading education group globally, especially in the new wave of online education, and a pioneer. So we will listen to them, what they are doing, and what they see as the future of work and education. And we have also online joining us from Education's, coming in from Stockholm, Mr. Richard Lehman. Hi, Richard.
Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening. Very nice to meet you all.
Thank you,
for
Richard.
inviting me.
Thank you, Richard. Yes, jadi secara online dari Stockholm juga hadir dari Education's Group Bapak Richard Lehman. Nanti akan memberikan referensi. Richard will give us a reference on how he sees the future of work and education. Then we also have with us today, representing the stakeholders. We have representing the Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Pak Tasbir has asked to make a response. Bapak Tasbir from the council or the board of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And then we also have from the Education Council of Yogyakarta, Bapak Tim Aprianto, who will give a response. And together with us, we also have Bapak Hermawan Ardianto, Pak Hermawan, from the Engineering Council, PII, dari PII, to give a response. And on the way here is from the government of Yogyakarta, Bapak Agus Priyono, who will soon join us together today. So, to kick off this discussion, I will ask, first of all, Bapak Tasbir to be able, representing the Chamber of Commerce, as the host today of Yogyakarta Chamber of Commerce, to give a remarks to open this discussion. With that, the mic is yours, Pak Tasbir.
Thank you, Pak George. Sorry. Oh, sorry, Andreas. Welcome to Yogyakarta. Okay, thank you. On behalf of Yogyakarta Chamber of Commerce, my name is Tasbir, advisor. Yogyakarta Chamber of Commerce, I would like to appreciate and thank you for this meeting, for all the team, Pak George, Pak Tim and the team of Yogyakarta Chamber of Commerce. And thank you for all the participants from the campus, from university, from the college in Yogyakarta, and also from government, from Yogyakarta, Province, and also from Bantul. Thank you. I think this is a good chance for us to discuss about how to develop the education for the future. And for information, Yogyakarta is focusing on 3 pillars: education, culture, and tourism. But today, of course, we are not only discuss about Yogyakarta, also for Indonesia, for the future of our country, for developing in the culture and in the education. That's why we are happy here to welcome you, and we need more information from your side, and then we can decide. We can discuss, and I think on behalf of the Yogyakarta Chamber of Commerce, I would like to open this, we start the discussion for this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Tasbir. Thank you, Pak Tasbir. And we will now begin to start with our discussion for today. First of all, I would like to share again with you the recommendations of the B20 to the G20. So, Pak Randy? Yeah. Could you put it on the slide? Yeah. Yang tadi. So, on the 15th of August, as you can see, this is the recommendations. Jadi teman-teman, ini yang dijadikan rekomendasi B20 kepada G20 pada 15 Agustus yang lalu. And number 1, the first recommendation is related to alignment with the sectors of the future, supported by dynamic and flexible labor markets. Jadi yang pertama itu terkait dengan alignment, ya. Bagaimana pendidikan dan itu dapat align dengan sektor-sektor masa depan, ya, terkait yang dinamis dan dunia kerja yang dinamis. The second recommendation, rekomendasi yang kedua, is upgrading education and lifelong learning systems for a productive future of work. Welcome, Mr. Agus Priyono, the head of international for the provincial government of Yogyakarta. Terima kasih, Pak Agus, selamat datang. So the second recommendation is related to upgrading education and lifelong learning systems for the productive future of work. Rekomendasi kedua adalah terkait dengan lifelong learning. Ini kata-kata kunci, lifelong learning. Terkait dengan sistem for supaya masa depan kerja yang produktif. Itu yang rekomendasi kedua. Rekomendasi ketiga, the third recommendation is ensuring the workforce inclusion to accelerate after the pandemic setback. Jadi ini terkait dengan bagaimana inclusion, ya, semua sektor dapat bersama-sama untuk mempercepat pemulihan perekonomian setelah pandemi. Dan sebelah kanan kalau kawan-kawan lihat itu juga terkait dengan policy action, ya. Jadi di situ ada terkait dengan SME, SME itu UKM. Jadi sekolah-sekolah yang mungkin berorientasi membangun kewirausahaan itu menarik itu. Yang kedua terkait dengan alignment of labor market regulations. Nah, ini terkait dengan regulasi dengan labor, ya, buruh. Yang ketiga terkait dengan transition of workers to business and formal economy. Nah ini kembali lagi, ini keterkaitan bagaimana pekerja itu bisa kemudian dari informal menjadi formal. Yang keempat itu terkait dengan the future of work yang people centered. Nah ini kunci. Masa depan kerja yang people centered. Yang berikutnya ada upgrade of quality of education systems. Nah ini terkait dengan sebagian besar yang ada di ruangan ini. It relates to the upgrade of quality of the education system. Yang berikutnya adalah build for fit for purpose lifelong learning. Kembali lagi, lifelong learning itu kata kunci yang keluar terus. That is a word that came out all the time, was lifelong learning. And third is actively participate in the support of a smooth transition for the future of sectors and jobs. Ya. Jadi transisi. Nah, teman-teman, ini merupakan policy recommendation B20 ke G20. So these are the principles of the policy recommendations and they are connected to the United Nations SDGs. Jadi ini kalau yang teman-teman lihat ini semua terkait dengan 17 pilar di SDG PBB, United Nations SDGs. Now, what we are doing here today is to get your reaction. Yang kita ingin lakukan hari ini adalah melihat respon teman-teman dan juga kemudian mungkin teman-teman punya opini juga. Di sini Ketua Kadin Indonesia membuka kesempatan. So the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the National Board, is opening the opportunity. The chairman is opening the opportunity for the stakeholders to continue to provide their input. Terkait dengan apa? Kebijakan kita di dalam justru. Bagaimana kita menyiapkan diri di dalam konteks the future of work and education. So that is the background. And before we kickstart to get input from the international perspective, sebelum kita akan mendengar masukan dari perspektif internasional, we want to now listen first or hear from our government. Kita ingin dulu dengar dari pemerintah kita. And just arrived, he just came in from Parliament House, meeting with Parliament, and came in from Parliament House. Just arrived is the head of the international affairs of the provincial government of Yogyakarta, Bapak Agus Priyono, who himself is a career diplomat. Jadi Pak Agus ini backgroundnya diplomat dan adalah career diplomat. And do not be surprised, maybe in the near future will be an ambassador also. Jadi mungkin ke depan akan jadi dubes juga. So before that, I introduce Pak Agus. I want to again recognize the colleagues here, Pak Agus, that from schools, headmasters, kepala sekolah, from the Chamber of Commerce, and from also Junior Chamber, and also from government, dari pimpinan Dinas Pendidikan Bantul. And so we also have colleagues online coming in from Stockholm, and also coming in from Jakarta. I noticed the B20 committee here. Pak Hendra is here. From the B20 committee coming in from Jakarta is online also. So a good group to begin to kick off this discussion. Representing the government of Yogyakarta, may I give the floor to Bapak Agus Priyono.
Thank you Pak Jos. Bapak Ibu semua, pertama mohon maaf datang terlambat pada acara yang penting ini karena mohon maaf maraton acara hari ini dari pagi tadi jam 8 sampai saat ini, jadi belum berhenti. Jadi mohon maaf sekali lagi atas keterlambatan. The Chairperson of Yogyakarta Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Gusti Kanjeng Ratu Mangkubumi, dan Board of Members Yogyakarta Chamber of Commerce, dear panelists, and then distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank to Yogyakarta Chamber of Commerce and Industry for initiating this event and inviting me to share in this auspicious forum. It is appropriate that this forum with the theme, the future of work and education, challenges and solution, is held in Yogyakarta, which is known as the city of education in Indonesia. For this reason, the regional government of Yogyakarta focuses on developing knowledge-based economy and green economy, even in the vision and mission of the governor and the Vice Governor of Yogyakarta Special Region, year 2022 and until 2027. It is stated that the development of a culture of innovation and the use of information technology are the two things that are emphasizes in the development of Yogyakarta the next 5 years. And it is not surprising that Yogyakarta currently has more than 100 universities, which is courses in the reach of young talent. Ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 pandemic that we are experiencing today is far more than just a health crisis. It is ultimately has an important impact on socio-economic, political, and security issues. The pandemic has brought major changes, or what we call massive in human daily activities. There have been at least 4 massive due to this pandemic. First, stay-at-home lifestyle, and then going back to the bottom of the pyramid, if we back to the Maslow theory, and then third, empathic society, and the last, going virtual. The COVID-19 pandemic is believed to be a big factor in accelerating digital transformation. When it comes to digital transformation, we agree that this has been done by many parties even before the pandemic. The surprising thing is that this pandemic has accelerated digital transformation and brought us closer to the future of the all digital era, which was previously just a dream. The world of business and education cannot be separated from this technological disruption. In the business world, citing the opinion of Dr. Rizal Akbar, he is the Vice President of IT Strategy and Governance at Telkom Indonesia. In practice, the use of technology is divided into 3 mutual sustainable strategies. First, people centricity, and then second, location independent, and the third, resilient delivery. Changes in the technological trend during COVID-19 has also happened in the world of education. Educational institutions must have rallied on digital technology and new strategies to improve the student experience, sustain the institution, and design new normal habits in the future. In the process, many educational institutions in Indonesia have implemented strategies such as virtual learning, combined learning with e-sport, cloud data, hybrid classroom, and so on. During the pandemic, a digital ecosystem trend emerged where all actors were involved with each other on the platform. If the conventional business model, consumer and businesses are placed separately, it is different in the digital ecosystem. Digital ecosystem prioritize engagement between 4 ecosystem components, namely participant, rules, share capabilities, and value exchange. In fact, any participant in the digital ecosystem, but its founders or consumer user can have more than one role. For example, a consumer user can also use the same platform for doing business. The practice will also be regulated in regulation that can be in form of algorithm, contract, and agreement. Therefore, the digital ecosystem is very focused on the exchange of value between fellow participants. The digital ecosystem will continue to develop as a digital transformation advances. For the reason, specific talent are needed to facilitate the success of this digital ecosystem. Gartner research detailed work competencies that are considered crucial in the success of digital work in the future. First, design thinking, kemudian innovative thinking, outcome-driven, collaboration skill, digital skill, the courage of the tech race. We believe that more than 100 universities in Yogyakarta have understood the 4 mega-shifts that I mentioned earlier, as well as understanding the digital ecosystem and the competencies needed to be able to get into it. With good understanding of these matters, I hope that the academic world can design curriculum or learning that can compensate for various disruption, especially in the field of technology that occurred so quickly during the pandemic, so as to be able to produce graduates who meet the expectation of the world of work in the new normal era. On this auspicious occasion, I would like to convey that the special region of Yogyakarta is ready to establish cooperation with various parties abroad, both those who have established sister province. We have Yogyakarta around 11 sister province with other area abroad, and those who have not, especially to improve the quality of education in order to be able to meet industrial needs. Specifically, we hope to establish cooperation in the field of vocational education, training at the vocational high school level, Diploma 1, Diploma 2, or Diploma 3 for information technological expert, computer, health worker, and for artists, as well as vocational education in the industrial sector. This is the thing that in several times the governor of Jakarta mentioned, a focus that we, Indonesia, especially Yogyakarta, have the high attention, high need, how to cope with the need, how to complement the worker in Indonesia, especially in Yogyakarta, with the vocational education, either in Diploma 1, Diploma 2, or Diploma 3. This is the real need that we face. We also hope to establish cooperation to develop certification for the vocational education training mentioned above. So, with the certificate of training or education, the worker of Indonesia, especially Yogyakarta, could also work not only in Indonesia, but also in the neighboring countries, Singapore, Malaysia, even maybe certificate who have recognized as Commonwealth. In closing, I would like to quote the Javanese philosophy ordered by Sultan Agung, the third Sultan of the Mataram Kingdom, the ancestor of the Ngayogyakarta Hadiningrat Village, which read, mangasah, mangising budi, nurturing, malaning the earth. The teaching of the Sultan Agung means that we should always hone the sharpness of mind to wash away calamities on earth. The relevance of is that now we must increase the master of science while preserving the environment and the living behind despicable trait, namely golek menangi dewe, looking for one own victory, golek butuhe dewe, putting one own interest first, and golek benere dewe, wanting to win oneself. This is where Sultan Agung from the beginning emphasizes the importance of collaboration, cooperation, and sharing together. I thank you.
Thank you Bapak Agus, terima kasih Pak Agus. Dan your remarks tadi, sambutan Bapak is very clear regarding the role of technology in education and the disruption that we are facing. So thank you for those for that comments. And so now it is in alignment with the speech and remarks that Bapak Agus Priyono, the head of international of the Yogyakarta regional government, has shared with us regarding the disruptions that we have today and where the role of technology and the future of education, the future of work itself, how will that come into play? We have two references, two persons that will provide international reference. Jadi kita sekarang tadi yang disampaikan Pak Agus terkait dengan disrupsi yang ada, yaitu peranan teknologi menjadi peranan vital di dalam sekarang penyelenggaraan pendidikan dan dalam rangka menyiapkan masa depan anak bangsa kita untuk di dunia kerja. Oleh karena itu, kita untuk memperkaya diskusi siang hari ini, kita akan mengundang dari grup internasional yang juga sudah melakukan menjadi pioneer ya, perintis di dalam aspek online ya. Dan grup ini adalah Educations Group yang hadir bersama kita. So now, in sequence of Bapak Agus Priyono, the head of the International of the Yogyakarta Regional Government speech today, we have with us from Educations Group, coming in from Stockholm, and also here with us here in Yogyakarta. So we will hear first from Richard Lehman, coming out of Stockholm, your response to the future of work and education, and how the disruption and how education institutions are adapting. So coming in from Stockholm, and then afterwards, here offline in Yogyakarta, we will hear from Mr. Andreas Bayer to trigger our conversation. Jadi untuk memicu diskusi pada hari ini, kita akan dengarkan referensi internasional terkait dengan apa tadi yang disampaikan Pak Agus. Richard, can you hear me?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, George.
Very good. So the floor is yours, Richard.
Thank you very much. So first of all, I would like to quote you, George. Education is the anchor of development, and long life learning is the truth right now, and something that Education is working very hard on as a company. That's our vision about education. So let me tell you a little bit about Education. We are the world leading cross-border high school provider, which means that we are sending students from 50 countries all over the world, mainly to the United States, but also to UK, Ireland, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, mostly the English-speaking education countries. Our experience during the pandemic was that very few schools were prepared for schools offline, meaning students were locked at home and could not go to their classrooms. Many schools did not have any tools for that. So this was when we realized that online learning must be part of our future as well. We started the Educations Academy online 2 years ago, and we are presently rolling out that program all over the world, and mainly in Europe right now. So the mobile learners, as we call them, or cross-border, the total market in the world is about 8 to 9 million learners. Most of them are doing higher education, university education. But as we see, it's 8 to 9 million because international education is very expensive. It requires you to travel somewhere, and you could say from $20,000 and upwards. That's what it's costing per year. So not for everyone. But the interesting thing with online learning is that this opens up a completely new world. A study that I read is that in 2030, we will have 800 million learners on the global market. Many of them will not be mobile. They will not be able to travel abroad due to the expensive education, but also out of other reasons. And this is where online education can play a very important role in the future. When we're talking about long life learning, we're also talking about different skills. The traditional school or traditional education is not enough anymore. There are other skills that is necessary and required by many companies all over the world. Skill sets such as character qualities, curiosity, social and cultural awareness, persistence, other educational competencies such as collaboration, communication, etc. These are skills that are not taught in many traditional schools, but is required by the companies. And this is where we see opportunities. Today, we are providing different types of online courses. There will be courses completely online. we are offering a dual diploma, which means that you can take your own high school exam and combine that with a US diploma. We have single courses, different subjects where students can try out before they actually decide what they want to do in the future. We have language courses, preparation courses, so that when they arrive at the university, they are prepared for that level of English. And we also provide skill courses, different types of skill courses. These combinations can be utilized by local schools, chains of schools, and add to the traditional education in many different formats. And this is our idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Very interesting. So, Educations as a global group itself had to adapt and then go on the route of this online, using online as an opportunity to provide education. And so, thank you for that that insight that you've just shared and the numbers that you've just shared. And based on the views that have been shared by Bapak Agus here from the government, that is the path of the future. So, with that, terima kasih Pak Richard tadi masukannya, karena disrupsi yang terjadi memang grup sebesar Educations pun harus kemudian menyesuaikan diri dengan memanfaatkan online sebagai pola pendidikan ya, dan ini juga sesuai dengan sambutan dari Pak Agus tadi. But also we have together with us live offline, jadi ini online offline ini. Live offline from Educations Academy Online. So Educations Academy Online is offline here in Yogyakarta. Let's give a round of applause. Yeah.
Imagine that. Yeah, the world is upside down. The world is upside down.
Jadi bersama kita kebetulan ada di Indonesia, datang dari Educations Academy Online Bapak Andreas Bayer to share about the B20 recommendations, how you see that, and in your experience in your own institution, how the future will look like. Please.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Thank you for having me, first of all. I think that Richard made some really valid points about the future with his numbers alone, and so I will leave that. But in order for me to be relevant in a room like this with so many distinguished people from so many different fields, but mainly from the field of education, then what I would like to do is I would like to bring this to an international level. And I would like to tell you about the experiences we have within Educations and the experiences we have with working with our partners all over the world. As Richard said, we have more than 50 different nationalities on our programs, and that means we get a lot of insight from around the world. And if there is one thing that is for sure, that is that if we see something happening in one place in this world, we can make sure it's going to happen in other places in this world eventually. So there is a lot of learning to have. Now, one thing that is extremely good to see is an international challenge that has been handled here in Indonesia already, which is the change of the curriculum, being more problem-based learning, being student-centric. This is a first fantastic step to take, and looking at that from a global perspective, you are way ahead of many countries, and you're chasing behind some other countries around the world, which is a very good position because you can learn from both ends. So that's always good. Now, when we talk about the future, I think student-centric is really the word to focus on. Now, I say that because if we look at the international trends, Richard used the expression, "it is not enough," and he has an extremely good point with that. What we see around the world are students spending time, energy, effort, and money on extracurricular academic endeavors, classes, experiences, what have you. But it is true that these students all have one thing in common, and that is that they do not necessarily feel that the education they're getting from their local school where they live is enough. They're seeking other possibilities of education in order to be as educated as they want to be, right? So we can establish that. And that is a situation that, of course, if you're running a school, is a challenge that you could say, "Ooh, this is a bit troublesome." But you could also say, oh, this is a great opportunity. Now, let's look at these opportunities then. So, what are these students going for? Okay, so first of all, it's important to remember that everything is happening at a younger age. I'll give you an example. When I was in university, I will not tell you when that was, because that will tell you how old I am. But it was a while ago, I can say. I took my education in education, you know, and I was proud of that. I was happy with that. That's what I did. I had friends, long-time friends, who were not happy with taking, you know, only one line of education. So they did double degrees, you know, engineering and finance, for example, very popular. One did psychology and finance. I don't know where he ended up, but, you know, he's probably happy. But what we saw was, you know, back then, students taking double degrees at university level. We see exactly the same thing happening now, but at a high school level instead. So this tells you that students are using, again, extracurricular possibilities, such as the ones provided by Education's Academy Online, for example, in order to reach the goal they want, but at a much younger age. Why? Because of the situation they're in. Competition is fierce. If you want to land that job, if you want to get into that university, if you want to get that internship with the top company that you want to get into, then you need something more than what you're going to be given at your local school in many cases. Or at least this seems to be what the students are feeling, because they're they're spending a lot of time getting extracurricular classes to be added onto their CV. It is about doing extra work for a real result. These students are not taking extra chemistry classes in order to get just a certificate to say, I took extra chemistry classes, I'm going to do well on my test in the local school. They're doing it in order to get a real second diploma that they can show. This is what I've done. This is my credential, right? And I think that this is the challenge we have moving forward. We were talking about challenges, and I would say this is a challenge we have. How do we, as educational providers, provide exactly what the students want and need in this, you know, ever-changing society and future educational landscape? Now again, I think what George showed us before has a big relevant point here, because there is something developing now. It's not because of the pandemic, but it's certainly been accelerated by the pandemic, and it is a very clear acceptance of online learning. Why is that positive in this perspective then? Well, because online learning can provide students with the educational opportunities they are seeking, but without these students needing to move away somewhere or travel and spend a lot of time and money on that. It is education being delivered in a new way. It is education being delivered in a way that is very high quality, that is actually designed for delivery online, which was not the case with many of the online classes that, you know, at least my kids took during the pandemic. I can tell you that for sure. And I think that because of this, the future looks bright. Because if we backtrack what we've been talking about here, what do we know? We know that in order to be relevant in the future for our students, we need to probably deliver more than what we're delivering now. And that can be, you know, different things or more of the same, or skills like Richard mentioned, or an international approach, whatever. But it is something that we're not delivering now anyway. And the positive side of this is that we can meet this future of additional need through things that are actually being delivered today if we want, through online courses and online programs. And so those are my 2 cents in this situation, and I'm happy to discuss further. So thank you very much.
So thank you, Richard coming online from Stockholm, and thank you, Richard Lehman, and thank you, Andreas Bayer, for coming offline from Yogyakarta, from Educations Group. And again, the key here is people-centric, student-centric, and secondly, I think Mr. Andreas Bayer mentioned something interesting. The role of extracurriculum seems to have now a bigger impact. Extracurriculum. Jadi ada dua tadi disampaikan Pak Richard sama yang datang dari Stockholm online dan Pak Andreas yang kebetulan ada di Indonesia dan datang offline di Jogja bersama kita, yaitu dari Educations Group, lembaga pendidikan terkemuka di dunia yang juga harus melakukan penyesuaian dengan disrupsi yang ada di dunia, itu pandemi global COVID, yaitu bahwa satu, online itu juga bisa dimanfaatkan untuk penguatan ekstrakurikulum. Karena ekstrakurikulum itu kemudian menjadi sekarang faktor kunci di dalam menyiapkan siswa yang sudah harus lebih dini kompetitif. Nah, ini menarik tadi statementnya tadi. Di usia yang lebih muda harus lebih kompetitif. Ya, ini milenial kayaknya Pak Fikri ini ketawa ini dari Junior Chamber. So jadi so that I think that's a very good statement that you've made, Andreas, and thank you, Richard, also for your insights. And to respond to that, we have from the Education Council of Yogyakarta, kita ada bersama kita dari Dewan Pendidikan Yogyakarta, on how your response is in regards to this conversation and also the future of work and education. Bagaimana tanggapan Bapak? We have with us Pak Tim Aprianto dari Dewan Pendidikan Yogyakarta. Kami persilakan.
Thank you, Pak Jos, for giving me this very wonderful opportunity to talk. Before I start presenting my response to the previous dialogues that we have, I would greet my colleague here, if present, Bu Nawang, from Education Council of Yogyakarta. Are you here? With me? Before, no. I'm not, I don't think that he is here. She is here. Well, Pak Jos, as I said before, previously we had a very short conversation with Andreas. I really inspired, I got inspired by our minister, Pak Nadiem Makarim, has a concept of Merdeka Belajar, independence learning. Or actually it is translated as emancipated learning, not independence learning, when we hear the talks in 15th of August. So before I started again my presentations, I should brief you, Andreas, and also colleagues here, that Yogyakarta has several contradictory predicates of being the city of educations, as well as at the same time we are also has the predicates of being the city of tourism and culture, of course. Why I say that it is contradictory one to another? Because being city of education need a vast and advanced developments. On the other hand, contrary, being city of tourism and city of heritage, city of world heritage city, we need to preserve values, we need to preserve culture and so on. So this is the uniqueness of Yogyakarta as the city, as a special region in Indonesia. Why we are a special region in Indonesia, maybe for Andreas, for you to know that Yogyakarta is the only city that has what we call as special regions, because we have it's like a monarchy systems, but it's like a constitutional monarchy, because the king and the sworn princess of Yogyakarta is automatically become the governor of Yogyakarta. This is the benefits of Yogyakarta as a special regions. Why I said this is a benefit? Because in the globalizing world, what we should face now is not only related to the, we have talked about the competence, the skills, and lots of knowledge. But the important things for us is the identity, what we call as a cultural identity, as the very significant things. I may call the three sheep. First is the competence. Of course, we need to have a competence, a very good competence of the future works and educations, required competence. And then the second, we can call it character. Besides competence, we also call character. And then the third is the context. The context of future education is still very important. As a background, I had a few short debates with my sons, Pak Jos. He was presenting about the concepts of metaverse. And I don't believe in metaverse as a long concept because it's a long debate, but I just want to, for you to know that metaverse is not really the true things in the world, but it is manipulated things of the universe that we can also, return to the basic ideas of conserving our universe. Cultural and context is very important. So this is the idea of why Yogyakarta Education Councils has a grand designs of what we call as Mas bisa di screen ya. From the beginnings, we have a grand design of Yogyakarta Special Future Education Models. We call it pendidikan khas ke-Yogyakartaan. I don't want to translate it into a uniquely model of education of Yogyakarta. But for sure that the visions of Yogyakarta as a city of education is Yogyakarta want to be the center of excellence in education in Asia. In Asia. Center of excellence of education in Asia. So next, yeah. As I said before, the context. We designs, we will present this grand designs to the governor, the king of Yogyakarta, as also the governors. We will build the foundations of the future educations based on the philosophy. We have 4 philosophy of education in Yogyakarta. The first is Hamamayu Hayuning Bawono. Everyone here, everybody knows about the Hamamayu Hayuning Bawono. It literally means around how can we have wisdom and a wise human beings in order to have a harmonious universe. To beautify the universe, we must have wisdom and future attitudes of being a good persons. And then it's quite difficult, it's quite challenging, Pak Agus, to translate Hamamayu Ayuning Bawono directly. And then second philosophy is Sangkan Paraning Dumate, is the consciousness that we should return to the God, everything in our life. Then Urip Kang Samporno. Urip Kang Samporno is the perfect life. We pursue the being a perfect life in our daily life through having a good conduct in our daily life. And then the fourth one is Manunggaling Kawula Gusti. This is the philosophy of our king, but also the philosophy of people in Yogyakarta. Manunggaling Kawula Gusti is the basic principles of democracy, Pak. It's not the separated concepts between the king and the people, but it is being united as one entity. So that is Manunggaling Kawula Gusti. Between the people and the king is united. And then the paradigm is based on Karyana Tiasing Sesomo. It's a humanity value. And then the values is, as Pak Agus before presented, Mangasah Mingising Budi, Memasuh Malaning Bumi. It's the spiritual of the patriotic, it's the patriotic values of education. So this soft approach is very important for designing the future education of Yogyakarta, Pak. And then the Pamentaning Gandewo, Pamentenging Cipta, before Pak Agus also presented before, it's how we can ensharp our brains, but we also at the same times have a very good character and very good competence in facing the futures. So pamantanging kandewo and pamantanging cipto. Not only thinking but also consciousness is important. Then all values are about the same, that the philosophy. Next, Mas. That's a context. And we design what we call as ethos. Ethos, we know that there are ethos, pathos, and logos. The patriotic spirit, as I mentioned before. Sources is Vidya Saka Tunggal. We have 5 pillars of education in Yogyakarta. The first pillar is the Keraton. The Keraton is the Sultan Palace. It's the pillar of education, because in the long traditions of the education systems in Yogyakarta is based on the traditions of Sultan Palace as the kingdom of Yogyakarta. And then the second pillar is Muhammadiyah. Muhammadiyah is also one of the important education pillar in Yogyakarta. And then the third pillar is education based on Islamic traditional boarding school or pesantren, which is also known as one of the largest organization in a Muslim organization in Indonesia, Nahdlatul Ulama. That's the third pillar. And then the fourth pillar is Western education, Pak. Western educations. Western education has been contributing to our education models in Yogyakarta. And then the fifth pillar is Taman Siswa. Yeah, Taman Siswa. So Keraton, Taman Siswa, Muhammadiyah, Nahdlatul Ulama, and then Western education are the 5 pillars that exist in Yogyakarta. Then the sources are, it's a destroyer. We have local law, number 4 and number 5, Pak Isdar Moko very good at memorizing this Perda, Pak. Perda nomor 4 tahun 2011 dan Perda nomor 5 tahun 2011 juga. Those the local law for cultural based educations and values. We have about 18, we identified 18 different characters, different types of educations based on cultural and character identities. Local context, next. Yeah, core values, source of core values. So we designed the future works. It's not only based on knowledge, but the most important thing is based on the core values. Mangasa mengising budi, pamantanging, the values that I have mentioned before. And then the right one is the source of law that we already have. Vidya Saka Tunggal is the 5 pillars in one education systems. And then taxonomy, we have the taxonomy of the education, and cognitive, affective, psychomotoric, that's a taxonomy of the Blooms, of course. Then the above is the teaching of Ki Hajar Dewantara. Ki Hajar Dewantara actually was one of the prince in Yogyakarta, and he became a very famous educator in Indonesia, Pak. Mr. Andreas, Ki Hajar Dewantara. Next, Mas. Then this is a very technical thing about how we describe core values becomes specialty, become the uniqueness of education in Yogyakarta as the future education models. And we want to have these innovations to become adopted with Indonesian Ministry of Education and also to other provinces. The idea is how can we make the education system that before is being a centralized education system, becoming the new education system, which is independent learning and student-centered learning. But the important thing is how can we have a decentralized education system. Next. Yeah, this is the roadmap of future education in Yogyakarta. It's quite technical. How we draw the education system from one milestone to another milestones. Don't worry for those the school leader. We are going to have this serial of workshops and meetings related to the grand designings of Yogyakarta education systems. Next, Mas. Yeah, this is the roadmap and milestones. So establishing the task force. First is establishing the task force, or we call it Tim Penggerak, Task Force for Education of Yogyakarta, and then assessment of the future developments. And then based on this assessment, we will make a kind of agreements in core values. Of course, we know that designing the future education must be based on the foundations of values, which is very important as the identity. The future technology is not the advanced technology, but the contextual technology, what we call after the advanced and digital technology, we will have what we call as a contextual technology. Then the future education and implementation, and then the reflections that those become development steps, phases of the educations, the reflection, best practices, and the implementations. That's the roadmap and milestones of Yogyakarta future educations. Next, Mas. Then this is the implementation steps. First is we call it ADC, and then second we call it insersi, and then the third is integrasi. Jadi ada tiga itu Bapak Ibu. Yang pertama ADC, kita akan mengadakan stadium general. We will hold a stadium general to have a kind of consultations. Of course, we will invite school leaders and other stakeholders, relevant stakeholders, to come to this stadium general for ADC. And then the second is insersi. So it's not going to be separated from the curriculum or the becoming extra curriculum, but it will be the insertions. So based on the education of cultural education. For your information, Pak Andreas, and also Pak Liman, Pak Liman, every Kamis Pahing, every Thursday Pahing, what is Pahing in English? Pahing is a Japanese calendar. Pak Agus and all the civil servants in Yogyakarta, including also the students, we wear a traditional custom, traditional dress, every Kamis Pahing, ya. Ya toh, Pak? Ya. Pak Josiwan, it is very interesting, Pak. You should document this because this is very unique, and this will be adopted to all around Indonesia. In order not to lose our identity, this is the way how we conserve our traditions, by practicing tradition and culture. Then the second is integrations of the between curricular and extracurricular. There will be a cultural integrations, because as I presented before that we have a 5 pillars become one education system in true 5 pillars. Next. This is the approach, model, and method of learning. The approach, we have student active learning, SCL, student-centered learning, pedagogy, andragogy, heutagogy, and cybergogy. Of course, cyber is, this is the context of the digital age, the context. That's the approach. And then the model, in the middles, we have a PBL, as I said before, problem-based learning, and then model, other innovative models. And the method, we have several methods. We have discussions, and then demonstrations, and then immersion visits, question and answer, simulation, and so on. Mas, next, yeah. So assessment, one of the first steps in order to have the future developments of future grand designs of education system in Yogyakarta, we are going to conduct what we call as assessment through participatory action research. First is observe and record best practices all around the province. We have 5 districts, 1 municipality and 4 districts in Yogyakarta, and we would like to have a consultation, observe and record best practices for the future educations. And then, of course, in these best practices, we will got the feedback from all the stakeholders, And the next is the next need assessment of future outcome and impact. And then stakeholder participation, participatory approach. And then the triangulations, method and sources. And then the reflections step is the synthesis and follow-up and recommendation. That's a very technical things. Mas, next, yeah. Yeah, this is one you also to know the existing cultural environments and our cultural atmosphere in the future education of Yogyakarta. For instance, the artifact we have gamelan. Gamelan is traditional Japanese instruments or traditional Japanese orchestra. You should watch. This is the first time for you to visit Yogyakarta. Is it right? Yeah. So you should observe. We have gamelan here in this hotel. Gamelan is traditional Japanese orchestra. So this is one of the artifacts that we should preserve. And then attitude, it's like the example is like salaman, ngapurancang, like this. For instance, salaman, and then ngapurancang is the tradition way of Yogyakarta. It's ngapurancang. It's like this. Yeah. This is the way of Japanese, the way of Jogjanese people behave. In order to show everybody know in Indonesia, all around Indonesia, if the people behave like this, they will recognize the person must be from Yogyakarta. From the way the person behave, from the way the person behave. So this is very important. Cultural identity is very important. This is ngapurancang, Pak. And then membungkukan badan, and then also the way the people like this, using our tongue. This must be from Yogyakarta. And my colleague Prof. Suwarno recorded what we call as 5 minutes being Jogjanese. It's very interesting, Bapak Ibu, ada 5 menit menjadi orang Jogja, 5 minutes being Jogjanese. And then the attitude, we mentioned already the attitude and traditions for amps and upacara, ceremony, traditional ceremony, art, food and beverage, for instance. We have Wedang Uwo. You recognize soon, Pak Andreas, Mr. Andreas. Wedang Uwo literally means garbage beverage, garbage drinks. But because it is from dried leaf and then ginger and many things, many herbs, it's very interesting. You like it, yeah? You like it, and it feels warm when we drink. Then language is Boso Kromo. We have 3 different levels of Japanese language. Kromo Ngoko, Madyo, and then Kromo Inggil. To be spoken with different level of what we call society. To the king, we will speak the highest language. To our friends, we will speak Ngoko. Yeah. And then to those who are respected, we will speak Madyo, Kromo Madyo. Then full language. That's actors, for instance, go back doors and so on. Technology. We also have a technology in Yogyakarta, proper technology. Next. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you very much, Pak Jos.
Thank you, Pak Tim. So tadi Pak Tim sangat baik sekali. Yeah. Jadi walaupun kita menuju teknologi, nilai-nilai dan karakter building is very important. So even though we're talking technology, but values and character building is very key to what and he even practiced, he even showed you how those values are. Terima kasih Pak Tim, thank you very much. And now we want to hear before we hear from the schools, nanti kan teman-teman dari sekolah-sekolah, termasuk nanti Pak kepala sekolah ya, kita minta tanggapan. But before we ask the schools to respond, we will hear now from a lot of usage of the word technology here. Kita ngomong teknologi tadi di sini. Now we have with us from this engineering society dari PII, Persatuan Insinyur Indonesia, the Indonesian Engineers Association. He himself is a leading engineer and a very successful businessman because of engineering. So Mr. Hermawan Ardianto, the engineer.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Iwan. This Pak Iwan is the member of board chairs of B20 ya, Pak Iwan, that's right. Selamat sore, thank you Pak Iwan, Pak Benny, Pak Tasbir, Mr. Andreas, Pak Agus, dan Pak Tim, dan distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. My name is Hermawan. I'm from Engineers Association, chapter Yogyakarta, and also Vice Chairman of the Yogyakarta Chamber of Commerce. I'm very happy to be here in this good, very nice afternoon to speak in perspective of engineers, maybe a little bit another perspective. So before speaking about the recommendation of B20, I think we should be to speaking in little bit broad perspective about the global issues and global challenges about future work and education. In Indonesia itself, in the engineers, now actually we have still not enough engineers for facing global challenge at now. By now, we have 5,000 engineers per million inhabitants. So, very low ratio. Even Vietnam now have 9,000 engineers per million. South Korea have 5 times comparing to us, 25 engineers per million. And USA, 20,000 engineers per a million inhabitants. So, yeah, we have a great vision 2045, Golden Indonesia. So that's mean we want to be a 4th ranking economic globally. So I think the number of engineers should be pushing higher by us. I'm very happy because I'm speaking in front of mostly from senior high school, yeah. So I think we have to push our students to more choose the science and engineering side, because now comparing to our condition now, we are still lack of engineers. I think our challenge to be industrialist country of the world need more engineers. So I promoting to the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to how to push our students, our children to more interesting and choose in the sector of sciences and technology. So criticizing the recommendation to the B20, I think we have to look our condition now, because at the B20 itself, we have still gap of quality of education and standard at now, yeah. So I think it should be in our recommendations to promote reducing the gap between a standard level, maybe a standard in USA by us in Indonesia. I think still, we have a disparity about that. And the second is also still mismatch our market needs, our industrial needs, and activity in higher education. So we have to promote things, activity. It should be close about the industry and education. And also, entrepreneurship is the best choice for the future works. And I'm very, very grateful if we promoting entrepreneurship based on the professionality. So, in another country, like say in Europe and America, a job must be standardized and certified by certain professional. But by us in Indonesia, we have still to promoting standardized and certification for the in job certain sector. So I think this will be opening a chance to professional as an entrepreneur in the future. So I think that's all, Pak Iwan. Tidak banyak yang bisa saya sampaikan pada sore hari ini, tapi hopefully that will be more opening and wider our perspective about education and memperkaya our recommendation to B20 in the next November. Thank you, Pak Iwan.
Terima kasih, Pak. Thank you, Pak Hermawan. So STEM, yeah. I think what you're talking a lot about is the focus on STEM, ya. And teman-teman ini memang kekurangan engineer, jadi kalau ngomong masa depan dan kerja dan sebagainya, kita ini angkanya tadi gapnya luas sekali. Our gap in engineer per million is very deficit, ya, with Vietnam, with South Korea, major deficit. Thank you, Pak Hermawan, for those input. Nah, sekarang kita mau dengar dari sekolah-sekolah. We want to hear from the schools now, your response on the future of work and education, tentang masa depan kerja dan pendidikan, dan apa yang kawan-kawan lihat. So I think I'm going to trigger, saya akan memicu kita kehadiran salah satu sekolah terbesar di Yogyakarta, one of our largest high schools here, is the headmaster is here, Kepala Sekolah Bobkri 1. Please, we would like to hear from you, the headmaster or principal of Bobkri 1 High School.
Terima kasih Pak Jos. SMA Bosa selalu mendukung program pemerintah. Satu. Sekarang sedang berjalan 2 kurikulum nasional dan juga kerjasama kelas internasional. Kami memiliki 3 kerjasama internasional, satu dengan Belanda, yang kedua dengan Plymouth UK, dan yang ketiga dengan Adelaide International School. Khusus yang Adelaide International School, setiap tahun kami selalu mengirim guru kami untuk short course. Karena memang dana juga sangat berkurang, maka bisa mengirim hanya 7 guru, Pak. Setiap tahun tapi. Yaitu dalam rangka untuk memberikan satu wawasan mengajar langsung di-handle oleh Adelaide International School. Dan mereka ketika pulang sudah tersertifikasi. Layak mengajar menggunakan SIS Curriculum, South Australia Certificate of Education. Itu guru kami setiap tahun. Kemudian untuk siswa, ini adalah kerjasama yang tahun ke-5.
kami sudah memiliki alumni yang sekarang di Kadin University di Perth, sudah masuk di semester 1, double degree, mendapat izin dari kementerian, kami diperbolehkan menjalankan program itu, kemudian ini sangat menopang sekolah kami, karena di sisi lain sebagai siswa yang memiliki menu untuk bisa belajar ke luar negeri, detailnya nanti kita bisa diskusi, ya. Kemudian gurunya juga mendapatkan pengalaman mengenai pendidikan global dan juga masa kerja masa depan. Mau tidak mau, memang ini bagian di tantangan. Oleh sebab itu, visi misi BOSA selalu diperbarui, terwujudnya manusia cerdas berbudaya dan berdaya saing global berdasarkan kasih. Itu menjawab tantangan itu, Pak. Jadi kami seriusi menu untuk bisa memberikan layanan kepada para siswa. Kalau yang di UK, di Plymouth UK itu, ini sudah tahun ke-7 kita bekerja sama, dan alumni kami sudah di sana banyak. Kemudian kalau yang di Belanda itu adalah student exchange, semata-mata kami memberikan wawasan kepada anak-anak kami untuk bisa mempunyai wawasan secara internasional, kemudian keliling kampus di Eropa. Ini sudah berjalan sekitar 7 tahun juga. Tapi yang paling penting menyambut baik dari pemerintah dan juga Dinas Pendidikan, karena kami terrekomendasi, oleh sebab itu kami mantap menjalankan program ini. Saya juga tidak tahu kalau Kadin mempunyai rancangan seperti ini. Saya sudah dibisiki sama Pak Tasdir, Pak Zahar nanti diskusi sama saya ya. Ini kesempatan Pak mengembangkan peluang ini, kemungkinan kami akan mendapat banyak sekali pengajaran nanti. Saya kira itu tanggapan dari saya, terima kasih.
Terima kasih Kepala Sekolah BOSA 1 atau BOSA, BOSA. Dan thank you the headmaster of BOSA High School or Bopkri 1 High School. Basically what you're saying is that you are adapting. Yeah? So I want to open to the other schools. Kawan-kawan, ada dari sekolah-sekolah lain di sini, mungkin responnya. Kira-kira bagaimana tanggapan terhadap fenomena ini? Kami persilakan.
Siapa yang akan menanggapi? Please raise your hand.
Kami persilakan. Ya, silakan. Silakan Pak, Mike, kawan dari ada Mike. Siapa yang?
Okay, yeah, thank you. I think I would share the experience that we have, some of the challenges that we have, specifically in our school, in Yogyakarta Montessori School, throughout the pandemic. I think it was a very difficult challenge for the students, the teachers, and also the parents, obviously. But I think that we believe that the biggest challenge lies for the teachers. Especially, it was a difficult decision for myself and Ibu Ganis when we're trying to make the best decision in terms of the learning throughout the pandemic, whether we should have a shift schedule for offline or online. But then we decided to have a hybrid system learning, which is the most difficult challenge because the teachers believe that it was very difficult to teach the students at home, but at the same time in school. And in terms of the schedule and the teachers as well, we have to make sure that it all fits perfectly together. But like it was mentioned before, we believe that this disruption could be viewed as a disruption or an opportunity to innovate and to learn. And that's what our school, that's how we view this challenge that we have. So we innovate, and speaking about extracurricular, I have some friends that is currently studying in the United States, and that itself, we bridge the opportunity for
coding program for our students that the teachers can also be from other country as well. It doesn't have to be in Indonesia. And likely I have some friends that is currently studying in the United States, and they're also become part-time teachers. So we convince the parents to try this new thing that we have, and it seems to work well for us. But for sure, the challenges is the facility that we have. For sure, the internet connection has to be very strong. Yeah, it's very strong, and the students also, because they spend a lot of time with their laptops and their phones, we have to make sure also that we provide programs that allows them to do physical activity. So I think it is a great opportunity for schools as well to innovate, to consider this as an upgrade, but at the same time, it is a challenge that myself and Ibu Ganis is still considering as a challenge. So that is, if I may share the experience that we have in our school as well. Thank you. You want to say something?
Mungkin satu lagi response from the schools. Silakan Pak. Itu ada mic. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you for the time, Bapak. I'm Anto, come from Keston Bangsa School. Actually, maybe the first thing we are trying to underline here, which is from Kadin here, you mentioned about what's the importance of competence, character, also the context education actually. Okay, as right now we are in the maybe global, as the global citizen, actually we as the school are trying to prepare the student that have global competence also. Previously maybe Pak Tim also mentioned about the Yogyakarta Special Future Education Model. I think it's quite good and really important for us. Why? Because the next challenging is when our students graduate from SMA and then they continue the university everywhere, they can stand there as people from Yogyakarta, and then the second one, they're trying to spread out maybe Yogyakarta to other. So it will really beneficial to us actually. And then in this part, maybe as school, our school trying to maybe give this what is the value. So we are focusing on the how we educate the students about their character and then the local value. So when they graduate from our school, it really beneficial to us to give the good value from Yogyakarta to other people outside there actually. And then we hope that with this program, we can more collaborate, I think, with another school, with the Montessori, with the Bosa, for example. They have really good programs. So maybe as new school here, we can learn from them. And then as Kadin mungkin juga seperti dari dinas mungkin, we can also ask their help for make the good program for the next education future for Jakarta. That's all I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we have three schools giving response. And basically, I think because we have now limited of time, our time is waktu kita mungkin sudah mulai. Ini first of all, we will record your input. And if you have input, you can put it in writing to Kadin. Kalau teman-teman punya masukan mengenai masa depan kerja dan pendidikan ini, kita siap nggak? Bisa dibuat tertulis ke Kadin karena kita waktu sudah mulai terbatas. But and then secondly, also Mr. Andreas has mentioned to me because he is in Indonesia and he's here for 2 days in Yogyakarta. He is also available if any of the schools here would like to have a visit from him tomorrow. So he's here for 2 days. This is again one of the leading education groups in the world. There's several of these groups, and this is one of the leading in the world. I think you have institutions in the U.S., in Europe, all over Europe, Australia, Japan. So one of the leading, and so any of the schools here, upon the conclusion of this meeting, you can Dr. Andreas, he is here the whole day tomorrow, just around. So you can invite him to your school and you can discuss opportunities there. And then thirdly, from Dewan Pendidikan, Dewan Pendidikan Education Council, you already have sent your recommendation to the B20. You have a written recommendation. Jadi dari Dewan Pendidikan juga sudah ada rekomendasi tertulis. APTISI, the Higher Education Association, also has recommendation. The recommendation of APTISI, just as an example, satu contoh rekomendasi ya. Kalau mau saya kasih trigger ya. From higher education, we are recommending self-accredited university. That's number one. For the future work of education, Indonesia become the champion. Our institutions have to be self-accredited. Number two, we are recommending a relook at our accreditation process. Ya, jadi kita ini sebagai untuk trigger aja ya, teman-teman SMA kalau mau ngasih rekomendasi, karena ini kan ke Kadin. Kadin ini industri B20 yang menjadi off-taker dari sekolah sebenarnya. Ya kan? Jadi kita when we talk about the future of work and education, there is an alignment between the industry and the workforce and education. Ada satu benang merah antara teman-teman pendidikan dan industri. That's why Kadin is open for your recommendations. Now, you can send to Kadin DIY, to Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industries DIY ya, nanti bisa dikirim. Sebagai contoh, as an example, APTISI, Higher Education, kita merekomendasi self-accredited university. Agar supaya lembaga pendidikan bisa menyesuaikan dengan dan beradaptasi dengan masa depan kerja dan pendidikan ini. Ya, kita fokus kepada adaptasi kebutuhan masyarakat. Sesuai dengan pidato Pak Agus tadi, sesuai dengan sambutan Pak Agus dari pemerintah daerah Yogyakarta. So, please feel free to recommend trigger point. Istilahnya tipping point, itu ada istilahnya, tipping point. Tipping pointnya di mana untuk SMA? Supaya Indonesia menjadi jawara. Jawara di dalam human capital. Dan itu secara teori ekonomi akan naik 3-4% GDP per annum kita. That means we will achieve 7-8%. Kalau sekolah-sekolah bisa beradaptasi dengan masa depan ini. So, please send your recommendation to Kadin for the schools and Pak Tim and Pak Hermawan, Wakil Ketua Kadin, dan Pak Syabenol dan Pak Tasbir. This is only the first kayaknya ya. This is the first because Yogyakarta is the center of education. So the center of education has to lead. Ya, Yogyakarta adalah pusat pendidikan di Indonesia, sehingga pusat pendidikan ya harus memimpin. So Yogyakarta harus lead the way. Betul nggak, Kepala Dinas, the head of the education department of Bantul ya. So for that, feel free to give your recommendation. Tolong kasih rekomendasinya. Yeah. And so in ending, I want to give the guests who came from far, far away, izin Pak Tim, Pak Hermawan, Pak Agus, to conclude before Pak Syabenol will close the event. I want to give Mr. Andreas Beyer, who came from far, far away, to give your final remarks. Before then, Mr. Syabenol, the chairman of the supervisory board of Kadin, will conclude this meeting today. Kami persilakan. Please, Mr. Andreas.
Thank you. So, what I would like to say is that looking at, I gave my perspective from an international point of view before. It was broadly based on general knowledge and experience from all over the world, and some of it applies to Indonesia, and some of it does not. But something that really applies to Indonesia is that you're in a really, really excellent position because you have a lot of people living in this country, and you have a strong focus on developing your education. And when those two things meet, only good things can happen. So, whatever we do here, good things will come out of it as long as we actually do something. So that's what I would like to leave you with. So thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
And also, I noticed Richard Lehman is still here with us from Stockholm. Richard, did you want to make some final remarks?
Yeah, it's very interesting to hear, and I'm truly amazed by the work that you are doing. I think we can do wonderful things together. We are in this business because we are passionate about young people and education, and I sincerely hope that we can find ways to work with. Online is just giving us such new opportunities. You can pick any curriculum, any course from any school all over the world, and you can combine that with your own curriculum, which I think is the maybe the strongest part in online education. As I said in the beginning, there are 800 million learners in 2030 who wants and needs education, and it will not be possible for all of them to get quality education at home. So online education can bring part of that or help part of that together with the local schools or local governments, local school systems. So this is what we are looking for. This is what we are working for, and we think that this could be part of the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. Let's give a round of applause. And thank you for joining us from Stockholm, Sweden.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. And now, to close, untuk menutup pada hari ini, mewakili Kadin, Ketua Dewan Pembina Kadin DIY, the Chairman of the Supervisory, Ketua Dewan Pertimbangan, the Chairman of the Supervisory Board of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry Special Region of Yogyakarta. Ketua Dewan Pertimbangan, kami persilakan.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have already discussed education and future employment in response to the B20 recommendation to the G20. The thing that have been submitted are recommendation to that they can be implemented. Thanks God, this discussion has gone well. Thanks to Mr. Iwan, Mr. Richard, and Mr. Andreas, Mr. Agus as a government representative, Mr. Hermawan, and Mr. Timothy, and all who participated in this discussion. So with this, we close the discussion together. All the praises to be God and Lord of the Alamin. Alhamdulillah Alamin. I mean, we close. Thank you.
Terima kasih Bapak-Bapak, Ibu-Ibu sekalian, kita sekarang ke Ramah Tamah. Dan sekali lagi bagi sekolah-sekolah yang mungkin besok mau ditengok, Pak Andreasnya masih ada 1 hari lagi di sini di Jogja, jadi beliau menyediakan diri. So, thank you everyone. And kalau sekali lagi rekomendasi pada Kadin, diarahkan kemana Pak Tim? Langsung ke Pak Tim, nomor Pak Tim?
085-226-171-181. Jadi saya di Dewan Pendidikan juga mewakili dari Kadin Pak, jadi aktivis. 085-226-171-181. Selain tadi yang disampaikan Pak Jos, di Dewan Pendidikan juga ke depan ini akan banyak program-program. Misalnya program beasiswa juga ke Tiongkok, itu ada ratusan beasiswa itu tersedia. Kami ada kerjasama antara Pemda DIY dengan Beijing Education Institute for International Exchange. Segera nanti kalau sudah launching program kami pasti ngundang Bapak Ibu semua. Ada ratusan beasiswa itu tersedia, itu baik itu college scholarship maupun government scholarship. Terima kasih.
Enggak. Dikawal ya Pak. Iya.